How the US dollar became the world's currency, and the threat that could end its reign. Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that the US dollar is no longer the world's most powerful currency. America's economy would change overnight. Prices could rise. Global markets could panic. Millions of jobs could be affected. But here's the shocking part. For the first time in decades, governments around the world are quietly preparing for that possibility. How did one country's currency become the foundation of the global economy? And could that foundation finally begin to crack? This is the incredible story of how the US dollar became the world's currency, and the growing threats that could one day end its reign. To understand how the dollar conquered the world, we have to go back more than 100 years. Before the US dollar ruled global finance, another currency held the crown, the British pound. At the height of the British Empire, London was the financial capital of the world. International trade flowed through British banks. Governments borrowed money in pounds. Merchants trusted Britain because it controlled one of the largest empires in history. For decades, the pound was the backbone of the global economy. Then everything changed. World War I devastated Europe. Britain spent enormous amounts of money fighting the war. Its economy weakened. Then came World War II. Entire cities across Europe were destroyed. Factories disappeared. Governments were drowning in debt. While much of the world was rebuilding from ruins, one nation emerged stronger than anyone expected. The United States. Its factories had been producing weapons, vehicles, steel, machinery, and supplies throughout the war. Instead of being destroyed, America's industrial power exploded. By the end of World War II, the United States produced nearly half of the world's industrial output. Even more importantly, it owned around 2/3 of the world's gold reserves. No country had ever possessed that much economic power at one time. The world needed a new financial system. In July 1944, representatives from 44 countries gathered in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. Their goal was simple: prevent another global economic disaster like the Great Depression. After weeks of negotiations, they created a completely new monetary system. Instead of linking currencies directly to gold, countries would link their currencies to the US dollar. And the US dollar itself would be backed by gold. The United States promised that foreign governments could exchange dollars for gold at a fixed price of $35 per ounce. For the first time in history, the dollar became almost as valuable as gold itself. Countries quickly began storing dollars inside their central banks. Businesses preferred trading in dollars. Investors trusted dollars. Confidence spread across the world. At the same conference, two powerful institutions were also created: the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. Both organizations played major roles in rebuilding the global economy while strengthening America's financial influence. For nearly 3 decades, the system worked remarkably well. The global economy expanded rapidly. International trade increased. The dollar became the language of global finance. But beneath the surface, a serious problem was growing. As America spent more money overseas and imported more goods, huge amounts of dollars flowed into foreign countries. Eventually, governments began asking an uncomfortable question. Did the United States actually have enough gold to back every dollar it had printed? Many countries became nervous. They started exchanging their dollars for American gold. America's gold reserves began shrinking rapidly. By 1971, the situation had become impossible to maintain. President Richard Nixon made one of the boldest economic decisions in modern history. He announced that the United States would no longer allow foreign governments to exchange dollars for gold. The world was stunned. The dollar was no longer backed by gold. Many experts believed its dominance was finished. But something unexpected happened. Instead of abandoning the dollar, countries kept using it. Why? Because the dollar had become much more than paper backed by gold. It was backed by the world's largest economy, the world's strongest military, the deepest financial markets, and perhaps most importantly, global trust. Then another strategic move made the dollar even stronger. Oil. Every modern economy depends on oil. Without it, transportation stops. Factories slow down. Supply chains collapse. In the 1970s, the United States reached agreements with major oil-producing countries. Oil exports would be priced primarily in US dollars. This changed everything. If Japan wanted oil, it needed dollars. If Germany wanted oil, it needed dollars. If Brazil wanted oil, it needed dollars. Every country needed dollars before it could buy the world's most important commodity. This created enormous demand for the US currency. The system became known as the petrodollar. For decades, it strengthened America's economic influence around the world. As global trade expanded, demand for dollars grew alongside it. Today, trillions of dollars move through the financial system every single day. International companies borrow in dollars. Governments issue debt in dollars. Banks lend in dollars. Commodities like oil, gold, and many raw materials are still largely priced in dollars. Central banks continue holding huge reserves of US dollars because they trust America's financial system more than almost any other. The US Treasury market remains one of the safest and most liquid places on earth for investors to store money. This is why replacing the dollar is far more difficult than simply creating another currency. A reserve currency depends on trust. Trust built over decades. Trust earned through stability. Trust supported by strong institutions and deep financial markets. But no financial empire lasts forever. Today, new challenges are beginning to emerge. China is encouraging more international trade using its own currency, the yuan. Several countries are increasingly settling trade using local currencies instead of dollars. The BRICS nations have discussed reducing their dependence on the US dollar. Digital payment systems and central bank digital currencies are changing how international payments work. Meanwhile, America's national debt continues reaching record levels. Political divisions have become more intense. Global competition is increasing. Does this mean the dollar will disappear tomorrow? Almost certainly not. The dollar remains deeply embedded in global finance. There is currently no single alternative capable of replacing it completely. But history offers an important lesson. The British pound once seemed impossible to replace. Yet its dominance eventually faded. History reminds us that every global financial system changes. Sometimes slowly. Sometimes suddenly. The real question is no longer whether the global monetary system will evolve. The question is who will shape the next chapter. Will the US dollar remain king for another 50 years? Will a new currency eventually challenge its dominance? Or will the future belong to a completely different kind of digital global money? Only time will answer that question. But one thing is certain. The story of the world's most powerful currency is still being written. And the next chapter may become one of the most important economic stories of the 21st century.